Everyone terrified the city of Chicago, but Vincenzo Ricci, the head of the most ruthless crime syndicate, was currently being defeated by 2 4-year-old girls. They hadn't slept in 4 days. Doctors were useless. Nannies had quit. He was powerful enough to silence a witness, but he was powerless to silence his own daughter's screams, until a broke waitress with nothing left to lose hummed a melody that changed everything. The neon sign of Louis' All-Night Diner flickered with an irritating buzz, casting a sickly yellow light over the cracked linoleum floors. It was 2:45 a.m. Lucy Clark wiped down the counter for the 100th time, her wrist aching. She wasn't just tired, she was exhausted in the way that settles deep in your bones when you have $14.50 in your bank account and an eviction notice taped to your apartment door. Her landlord, Mr. Henderson, had given her until Friday. It was currently Tuesday. "Lucy, hurry up with table 4. Her manager, Rick, barked from the kitchen. "And smile, for God's sake! You look like a funeral." Lucy forced a grimace that resembled a smile and poured more watered-down coffee. She was 24, but she felt 50. Since her mother passed away 6 months ago, leaving behind a mountain of medical debt, Lucy had been drowning. Then, the atmosphere in the diner shifted. It wasn't a sound. It was a sudden, suffocating pressure. 3 black Cadillac Escalades pulled up to the curb, idling aggressively. The diner door swung open, and the air went cold. 4 men in dark suits entered first, scanning the room with predatory eyes. They stood by the door, hands hovering near their waistbands. Then, he walked in. Vincenzo Ricci. You didn't live in this city without knowing that face. Sharp jawline, eyes the color of cold steel, and a bespoke Italian suit that cost more than Lucy would earn in a lifetime. But tonight, the terrifying Don of the Ricci family didn't look dangerous. He looked like a man on the edge of a breakdown. In his arms, he carried a screaming child. Another man, his right-hand enforcer, known as Matteo, carried an identical girl, the twins, Mia and Clara. The rumors were that their mother had died in a car accident a year ago, and since then, the Ricci household had been a fortress of grief. The children were hysterical. It wasn't just crying, it was the high-pitched, terrifying shrieking of children who were overtired and terrified of the world. "Get us a booth in the back," Vincenzo snapped, his voice hoarse, "and get everyone else out." Matteo moved instantly, dropping a stack of $100 bills on the tables of the 3 other customers. "Leave. Now." They scrambled. Lucy stood frozen behind the counter, clutching the coffee pot. Rick, her manager, had turned pale and was hiding in the kitchen. Vincenzo sat in the corner booth, trying to bounce the little girl, Mia, on his knee. She arched her back, screaming, her face turning a dangerous shade of purple. The other twin, Clara, was sobbing into Matteo's shoulder. "Vincenzo, she's burning up," Matteo said, his voice low but urgent. "We need to take them to the hospital again." "No hospitals," Vincenzo roared, slamming his hand on the table. The cutlery rattled. "They sedate them, Matteo. I am not drugging my daughters again because they can't sleep. They just need to stop crying." He looked broken. For a split second, the monster vanished, replaced by a desperate father. Lucy didn't know what possessed her. Maybe it was the exhaustion making her delirious. Maybe it was the fact that she had raised her younger cousins. Or maybe it was just instinct. She grabbed 2 glasses of warm milk and walked out from behind the counter. "Hey!" one of the guards at the door barked, stepping forward. Vincenzo held up a hand to stop him. He glared at Lucy as she approached. "I didn't order that." "You didn't have to," Lucy said, her voice shaking slightly but holding firm. She placed the milk down. She looked at Mia, the twin in Vincenzo's arms. The little girl was hyperventilating. "She's caught in a panic loop," Lucy whispered. "She's so tired she's scared of falling asleep." Vincenzo narrowed his eyes. "And you're a doctor now? You're a waitress." "I'm someone who knows that yelling doesn't help," Lucy shot back. Vincenzo looked stunned. No one spoke to him like that. Not if they wanted to keep their tongue. Lucy ignored the glare of the deadliest man in the city. She knelt beside the booth. She didn't touch the child. She just started to hum. It was a low, melodic tune, an old French lullaby her mother used to sing. "Fais dodo, colla mon petit frère." The rhythm was hypnotic. Lucy tapped her fingers gently on the table, in time with the hum. Maya stopped screaming to take a breath. She looked at Lucy, her tear-filled eyes wide. Lucy kept eye contact, her expression soft, warm, and safe. She switched from humming to singing the word softly. "Fais dodo, toradu lolo." Slowly, incredibly, Mia's breathing hitched and slowed. The other twin, Clara, lifted her head from Matteo's shoulder to listen. The diner fell silent, save for the hum of the refrigerator and Lucy's voice. Vincenzo stopped rocking. He sat perfectly still, watching this waitress in a stained apron enchant his daughters. Within 3 minutes, Clara's eyes drooped. Within 5, Mia's head rested against Vincenzo's chest, her thumb slipping into her mouth. 10 minutes later, both girls were fast asleep. Vincenzo looked down at them, then up at Lucy. His expression was unreadable, intense, and calculating. "What is your name?" he asked quietly. "Lucy. Lucy Clark." "Well, Lucy Clark," Vincenzo said, carefully standing up while cradling his daughter. "Grab your coat." Lucy blinked. "Excuse me? You're coming with us." I can't. I have a shift. I have a life," Lucy stammered, backing away. Vincenzo signaled to Matteo. Matteo carefully handed the sleeping Clara to a guard and pulled out a checkbook. He wrote a number and slid it across the table to Rick, who had peeked out from the kitchen. "This buys the diner," Vincenzo said coldly to Rick. "She quits." He turned back to Lucy. "My daughters haven't slept more than 2 hours a night for 6 months. Tonight, they slept in 5 minutes because of you. You are coming to my house. You will be their nanny." "I'm not a nanny," Lucy protested, her heart hammering against her ribs. "I'm a waitress." Vincenzo stepped closer. He smelled of expensive cologne, gunpowder, and desperation. "I will pay you $10,000 a week," he said. Lucy's breath caught in her throat. 10,000. That would pay off her mother's debts in a month. It would save her apartment. "And," Vincenzo added, his eyes darkening, "I don't take no for an answer." The ride to the Ricci estate was silent. Lucy sat in the back of the second SUV, sandwiched between the 2 sleeping girls in their car seats. She stared out the tinted window as the city skyline faded, replaced by the towering iron gates of a property in the ultra-exclusive Lake Forest district. This wasn't a house. It was a fortress. High stone walls, cameras on every tree, and armed men patrolling the perimeter with German shepherds. When the car stopped, Matteo opened her door. "Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't wander into the East Wing, and never, ever ask about their mother." "Got it," Lucy whispered, clutching her worn-out purse. They entered the foyer. It was breathtakingly cold. Marble floors that looked like ice, crystal chandeliers that offered light but no warmth, and modern art that looked like violent splashes of red paint. "Take them to the nursery," Vincenzo commanded Matteo, then turned to Lucy. "You, follow me." He led her into a study that smelled of leather and cigar smoke. He walked behind a massive mahogany desk and poured 2 fingers of amber liquid into a glass. "You start tonight," Vincenzo said, not looking at her. "You sleep in the room adjoining the nursery. Your job is simple. Keep them calm. Keep them sleeping. If they scream, I hold you responsible." Mr. Ricci, Lucy said, finding her voice. I need to go to my apartment. I need clothes, I need to pack. Matteo will have your things collected. Anything else you need, you buy. On the company card. He slid a black Amex across the desk. Just then, the heavy oak doors swung open. A woman walked in. She was stunning in a terrifying, angular way. Blonde hair pulled back so tight it pulled her eyes, wearing a silk dressing gown that probably cost more than Lucy's education. This was Vanessa Sterling, the daughter of a rival banking family, and, according to the tabloids, Vincenzo's fiancée. She looked at Lucy with immediate, visceral disgust. "Vincenzo, darling," Vanessa purred, walking over to touch his arm. "Who is this? Why is there a stray in your office?" "This is the new nanny," Vincenzo said, taking a sip of his drink. Vanessa laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "Another one? Darling, the agency sent the last one packing in 2 days. What makes you think this child can handle the twins? They're broken, Vincenzo. They need a psychiatrist, not a babysitter." Lucy bristled. "They aren't broken," she said. The words were out before she could stop them. Vanessa turned slowly, her eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" "They're children," Lucy said, standing taller. "They're grieving. They aren't broken." The room went deadly silent. Vincenzo watched the exchange over the rim of his glass, his eyes flickering with something like amusement. Vanessa stepped into Lucy's personal space. She smelled of Chanel No. 5 and malice. "Listen to me, you little rat," she hissed, low enough so Vincenzo couldn't hear the specifics, but loud enough to be threatening. "I'm going to be the mistress of this house in 3 months. I don't like staff who talk back, and I certainly don't like staff who think they can fix those brats. Do your job, stay invisible, and maybe you'll last the week." "Vanessa!" Vincenzo's voice cut through the tension like a whip. "That's enough. Show her to the nursery." Vanessa smiled tightly. "Of course, darling." As Lucy followed Vanessa up the grand staircase, the woman didn't speak. But when they reached the nursery door, Vanessa stopped. Her hand rested on the doorknob. "You have no idea what you've walked into, Lucy," Vanessa whispered, her face devoid of emotion. "Those girls, bad things happen around them. The last nanny, she didn't quit. She fell down the stairs, broke her neck." Vanessa opened the door and gestured inside. "Sweet dreams." Lucy walked into the nursery. It was dimly lit. The twins were tucked into their beds, finally peaceful. But as Lucy sat in the rocking chair, watching the shadows stretch across the room, she couldn't shake the feeling that Vanessa wasn't just being mean. She was giving a warning. Around 3 a.m., Lucy woke up. She had dozed off in the chair. The room was freezing. Strange, she thought. The thermostat was set to 72. She stood up to check the girls. Mia was tossing and turning. Lucy reached out to tuck the blanket around her, but her hand stopped. Under Mia's pillow there was something hard. Lucy gently lifted the pillow. Her breath hitched. It was a small, velvet pouch. Inside there were dried herbs and a small, distinct photo of Vincenzo, with the twins' face scratched out with a needle. It looked like some sort of hex bag, or something meant to induce nightmares. Lucy's heart raced. She checked Clara's pillow. Same thing. Someone wasn't just ignoring the girls. Someone was actively tormenting them. The door creaked behind her. Lucy spun around, hiding the pouches behind her back. Matteo stood in the doorway, his silhouette imposing against the hallway light. He saw the fear in her eyes. "Is there a problem, Miss Clark?" he asked, his hand resting on the holster under his jacket. Lucy looked at the sleeping girls, then at the dangerous man in the doorway. If she told him, would he believe her? Or was he in on it? "No," Lucy lied, her voice trembling. "Just checking the temperature. Matteo stared at her for a long, uncomfortable moment. "Go back to sleep. Mr. Ricci expects breakfast at 7 sharp." He closed the door. Lucy looked down at the pouches in her hand. She wasn't just a nanny anymore. She was the only line of defense between these little girls and a darkness that was living inside the house. She didn't sleep the rest of the night. She sat in the chair, watching the door, realizing that the $10,000 a week wasn't payment for childcare. It was hazard pay. For 3 days, Lucy lived in the lion's den. She didn't sleep much. She spent her nights sitting in a chair between Mia and Clara's beds, clutching a heavy brass candlestick she'd taken from the hallway. She hadn't told Vincenzo about the pouches under the pillows. Not yet. She knew how this world worked. A waitress accusing the fiancé of a mafia don would likely end up at the bottom of the Chicago River. She needed proof. The breakthrough came on Thursday morning. The house was buzzing with activity. Saturday was the Ricci annual gala, a masquerade ball that served as a front for the city's underworld dealings. Vanessa was in high spirits, barking orders at the florists. Lucy was in the kitchen, preparing oatmeal for the twins, when she saw it. Vanessa's personal maid, a timid girl named Sarah, was crushing a blue pill into the girl's orange juice. "What are you doing?" Lucy asked, stepping into the kitchen. Sarah jumped, nearly dropping the glass. "Miss Vanessa's orders. It's vitamins, to help them focus." "They are 4 years old," Lucy said, her voice trembling with rage. "They don't need focus. Give me that." She snatched the glass. She dipped her finger in and tasted a tiny drop. It was bitter. Chemical. It wasn't a vitamin. It was a low-grade amphetamine mixed with a fear inducer. It was a drug designed to keep people awake and paranoid. It wasn't ghosts keeping the girls awake. It was Vanessa. She was drugging them to make them seem unstable, to justify sending them away to an asylum so she could have Vincenzo all to herself. "Lucy, please," Sarah whispered, tears in her eyes. "She'll kill me." "No," Lucy said, pouring the juice down the sink. "She won't." Lucy marched out of the kitchen, intent on finding Vincenzo. She found him in the music room. He wasn't working. He was sitting at a grand piano, playing something melancholic and complex. He looked tired. Lucy stopped at the door. The anger deflated, replaced by a strange ache in her chest. "You play beautifully," she said softly. Vincenzo didn't stop playing. "My mother taught me, before the life took her." He paused, hitting a dissonant chord. "The girls used to love this song. Now they scream if I play it." "They're getting better, Vincenzo," Lucy said, stepping into the room. "They slept 6 hours last night." Vincenzo stopped. He turned on the bench to face her. The hard lines of his face softened. "Because of you. You have done more in 3 days than the doctors did in a year." He stood up and walked toward her. The air in the room grew heavy, charged with electricity. He stopped inches from her. She had to tilt her head back to look at him. "Why are you so different, Lucy?" he murmured. He reached out, his rough thumb grazing her cheek. "I just listen," she whispered. His gaze dropped to her lips. For a moment, Lucy thought he was going to kiss her. She wanted him to. God help her. She wanted the devil to kiss her. "Vincenzo!" Vanessa's voice shattered the moment. She stood in the doorway, wearing a tight red dress, her eyes blazing with jealousy. "The tailor is here for your suit," Vanessa said, her voice sugary sweet, but her eyes promising murder. "And Lucy, shouldn't you be washing the children's clothes? You smell like grease." Vincenzo stepped back, the mask of the Don sliding back into place. "Go check on the girls, Lucy." Lucy nodded and hurried out, but as she passed Vanessa, the woman grabbed her arm. Her nails dug into Lucy's skin. "I know you poured out the juice," Vanessa hissed in her ear. Do it again, and I won't fire you. I'll frame you for theft. Vincenzo will cut off your hands before he throws you out." Lucy pulled her arm away. "You're a monster." "I'm a survivor," Vanessa smirked. "Enjoy the gala from your room, servant. It's the last night you'll spend in this house." That night, Lucy made a decision. She wasn't going to hide in her room. She was going to the gala. She had to. Because she had overheard Vanessa on the phone, whispering about a transfer happening at midnight during the fireworks. They weren't just drugging the girls. Tonight, Vanessa was going to have them kidnapped. The Ricci estate was transformed. Gold lights, expensive champagne, and 300 of the most dangerous people in America wearing masks. Lucy didn't have a gown, but she had desperation. She raided the donate pile in the laundry room and found a vintage black silk dress that had belonged to Vincenzo's late mother. It fit perfectly. She found a simple black domino mask and slipped out of the nursery after locking the door from the inside and hiding the key in her bra. She had to find Vincenzo. She had to warn him before midnight. The ballroom was a sea of anonymous faces. Lucy weaved through the crowd, her heart pounding. She spotted Vincenzo near the orchestra. He was wearing a black tuxedo and a silver wolf mask. Even hidden, his presence commanded the room. He was dancing with a woman in a red dress and a peacock mask. Vanessa. Lucy took a deep breath. She walked right onto the dance floor. As the song ended, she stepped forward. "May I cut in?" Vanessa froze. She recognized the voice. "I need to speak to the host," Lucy said, deepening her voice, praying Vincenzo wouldn't recognize her immediately, but would be intrigued. Vincenzo looked at this mystery woman in the black silk. He didn't recognize the dress. It had been in storage for 20 years. But he recognized the eyes. "Leave us," Vincenzo said to Vanessa. Vanessa was furious, but she couldn't make a scene in front of the families. She stormed off, signaling to 2 guards near the exit. Vincenzo pulled Lucy close as the waltz began. "You're playing a dangerous game, Lucy. If Vanessa sees you—" "She's planning to take them, Vincenzo," Lucy whispered urgently, leaning into his ear. "Tonight, at midnight, during the fireworks. She's selling them to the cartel in the south to pay off her father's gambling debts." Vincenzo stopped dancing. The people around them bumped into them, but he didn't move. His body went rigid as stone. "What did you say?" His voice was a low growl. "The drugs, the fear. It was all her," Lucy said, tears welling up behind her mask. "I found the pills. She's been drugging the twins to make you think they're insane, so you wouldn't fight for custody. But now she's just going to take them." Vincenzo looked at her. "Do you have proof?" "No," Lucy admitted, "but I have my life. I'm risking it right now to tell you." Suddenly the lights cut out. "Midnight," a voice announced over the speakers. "Time for the fireworks." Screams erupted from the second floor. The nursery. "The girls!" Lucy screamed. Vincenzo didn't hesitate. He pulled a silver 9mm from his jacket and sprinted toward the stairs, Lucy right behind him. They burst into the hallway. The nursery door was smashed open. Matteo was on the floor, unconscious, bleeding from a blow to the head. The room was empty. "No, no, no!" Lucy cried, running to the window. Below on the lawn, 3 men were dragging 2 screaming bundles toward a waiting helicopter. Vanessa stood by the helicopter, shouting at them to hurry. Vincenzo didn't yell. He went deadly quiet. He raised his gun, aiming through the open window. It was a clear shot, but risky. "Lucy," he said calmly, "sing." "What?" "They are panicking. They're moving too much. If I shoot, I might hit them. Sing the lullaby. Make them stop moving." It was insane. But Lucy leaned out the window into the cold night air and sang. She sang the French lullaby, her voice projecting with all the love and terror she felt. Fais dodo, cola mon petit frère. Down on the lawn, amidst the roar of the helicopter blades, the twins heard it. It was their anchor. They stopped thrashing in their captor's arms, looking up toward the house. That split second of stillness was all Vincenzo needed. Bang! Bang! 2 shots, 2 headshots. The kidnappers dropped the girls and collapsed. The third kidnapper panicked and raised his gun at Vanessa, realizing the deal was off. Vincenzo turned from the window and looked at Lucy. "Stay here." He jumped. He vaulted over the balcony railing, landing on the grass with a roll. He was a predator unleashed. He reached the helicopter before it could lift off. He pulled the pilot out and threw him to the ground. Vanessa tried to run, but Vincenzo grabbed her by the back of her expensive red dress. He dragged her back toward the house, throwing her at the feet of his approaching guards. "Lock her in the cellar," Vincenzo commanded. "I'll deal with her personally." He fell to his knees and scooped up his daughters. They were crying, reaching for him. "Papa! Papa!" "I've got you," Vincenzo choked out, burying his face in their hair. "I've got you." Lucy ran out of the house, breathless. She stopped a few feet away, not wanting to intrude. Mia saw her. "Lucy!" The little girl broke from Vincenzo's arms and ran to Lucy, burying her face in Lucy's dress. Clara followed. Vincenzo stood up, watching the 3 of them. The waitstaff, the guests, the guards. Everyone watched. The Mafia King walked over to the poor waitress. He didn't care about the audience. He didn't care about the blood on his suit. He cupped Lucy's face with his hands. "You saved them," he said, his voice raw. "We saved them," Lucy whispered. Vincenzo kissed her. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was possessive, desperate, and full of a promise that he would burn the world down before he let anyone hurt her again. 6 months later, the nursery was quiet. No screams, just the soft sound of rain against the window. Lucy sat in the rocking chair, a diamond ring on her finger that was heavy enough to sink a ship. Vincenzo stood in the doorway, leaning against the frame, watching his wife read to their daughters. "Are they asleep?" he whispered. Out like lights, Lucy smiled, closing the book. Vincenzo walked over, picked Lucy up from the chair, and carried her toward their bedroom. "Good," he smirked, "because the boss couldn't sleep. He needs his wife." Lucy laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck. The nightmare was over. The waitress had tamed the beast, not with a whip, but with a song. And finally, in the house of Ricci, everyone slept soundly. And that is how a simple lullaby brought a mafia empire to its knees and turned a broke waitress into the Queen of Chicago. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who protects you when the nightmares come. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button right now. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new romance drama. Comment Mafia below if you want a part 2 about their wedding.